Hey, Frank Paris here with a tutorial. And the reason I'm making this tutorial is because there isn't any tutorials out there that I've been able to find on this particular subject. So I decided I was going to make my own. And I hope that this will benefit some of the uh, hobbyists out there and the hackers out there, but mostly the magicians. And because I am a magician. And the profession of magic is such that a lot of magicians uh, are either performers and spend most of their time performing and getting gigs and going out and working on performances. And if they're successful at it, then they hire people to build their props for them, or they hire their people to figure out how to make a prop, how to build a prop, how to design a prop. Very few magicians, and I've got to know this because I've been in the business for, I started when I was 14, and that was 60 years ago, uh, in the business of magic, whether it was performing, doing close-up, doing stage, doing comedy magic, doing escape magic, doing mentalism, all of those things, all of the above, card magic, coin magic. Do I do them well? Some of them I do well, some of them I don't do well. The ones that I don't do well, I don't show other people. I mean, except maybe family. But you know, because I'm working on it, I'm trying to get it better. I'm trying to, whatever, that kind of thing. And at 74 years old, you wind up, uh, if you don't touch a prop for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, you got to go back and you got to play with it, and you got to not relearn it, but you have to refresh your memory on how to do it, what procedure you use, what inflections in your presentation you use, all of these things. Anyway, I'm getting off the subject. This is about remote controls, things that you have in your arsenal of magic that operate off remote control, whether it is to activate the prop, to activate the the magic trick, to activate the Ouija board or activate something. I'm not going to try to give away any secrets, so I want you to understand that that's not going to happen. But what I want to talk to you about is the ability to create and design your own magic, and the ability to have something unique in your act and your shows, and that involves being able to unpack the insurmountable amount of information that's out there on a particular subject. And I'm going to give you a little bit of, I'm going to unpack a little bit for you, unzip it, whatever you want to call it, so that you have an inkling, an idea on how to do something. You will need further knowledge on what I'm about to talk about, but you'll know where to go to get it, because you'll have knowledge, and knowledge is power, and that power will lead you to other things, mainly on YouTube and that kind of thing. All right, so what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about remote controls. One of my least favorite things to do is use a toe switch. If you don't know what a toe switch is, it's a way of pressing your toe against a remote transmitter, and that signal that goes from the remote transmitter when you press your toe against the switch in your shoe, yes, it's in your shoe, the remote transmitter, it travels at the speed of whatever to the receiver, and that receiver activates the item, whatever the item may be. The item could be a fireman climbing a ladder. A fellow magician named Del Rey used a fireman climbing a ladder to do a trick. He also used a talking, a chirping, singing bird to do a magic trick. and he would press that toe switch, and that would activate a electromagnet in his table, which would make the bird talk, or would make the fireman climb the ladder, kind of thing. Technology has changed since the 90s and the latter 80s when he was alive and kicking. Uh, but you still need a transmitter and a receiver to activate something, okay? Because you don't want to show your hands activating it, because then there's no trick, and there's no prop or anything. So we're going to talk about remote controls and how to use the remote control uh, uh, in a situation where you're using a toe switch, which you can make up. We're going to also talk about hacking toys. Okay, so you could actually add a remote control to a hack toy, just like you add a remote control to a magic prop. To get the magic prop, maybe the deck of cards to flip over, or to activate your music, or that kind of thing. All right, so, or in my case, I designed I refurbished these Carl Grisbaum talking, singing birds, and I add a remote control to them because they're wind up. Anyway, let's talk about the transmitter and receiver first. I order a transmitter and receiver that looks like this. I order probably about 50 to 100 a year, because some props that I sell use two of these. I sell a remote control comedy steampunk lie detector. And you've got a remote control for the truth, and you got a remote control for the lie. And they're both on clipboards, and you're holding the clipboard in your hand, and basically the clipboard is, well, you got the questions to ask the kid or the adult. You got a list of questions to see if they're telling the truth or the lie, and you got your questions. So basically, one is on the left and one is on the right of the clipboard. Nobody sees it, of course, because you've got the clipboard in your hand, and you're holding it close to your body. And you press say the remote control on the left, which is the green for the green lights on the remote control comedy lie detector, or the red on the, which is, I'm sorry, on the right, and then the green is the left. Truth, lie, truth, lie. Okay, so I ordered a lot of these guys, and what's nice is they're small. What's nice is there's only 3 screws on the back, which you can gently unscrew, and with a small screwdriver, a little Phillips screwdriver like so, and you can take out the battery and change the battery. Okay, the receiver looks like this. That's the receiver. Now, the receiver is what activates the item, but the receiver needs power. Okay, and usually when you buy the transmitter and receivers, I buy them from Amazon. This particular model, see it? I'm going to put a link in the YouTube channel so you can see how to get this from Amazon. And I buy them from Amazon. I don't buy them from eBay. I don't buy them from Etsy. I don't buy them from Walmart. I go to Amazon for this particular model of remote control transmitter and receiver. Now, the receiver and the transmitter, when you buy them together, if you look at the Amazon ad for these, they say pre-paired, P-A-I-R-E-D, meaning that they pre-paired these two together so that they talk to each other when you press the button, as opposed to getting a remote transmitter and receiver that are not paired. And all of them say that they're paired. Okay? When you get them home and you see that they're not paired, and then you have to go up on YouTube and look for this particular model, scroll down 4,000 different pairing procedures, okay? And then when you finally get the pairing procedure for this, it doesn't work. Push this button, then press a button here, and do this, that, the next thing, and it don't work. It don't work for me, okay? Maybe it works for somebody else, don't work for me. And I'm pretty savvy when it comes to things like this. So when you see this online, this transmitter, this receiver, and it says paired prepared, you don't have to do nothing. Okay, when you get it home and you get it from Amazon and it's not paired, then there's something wrong with it. Okay, so you send it back and you get another one, or I buy 4 or 5 and I take the 1 or 2 that's not working and I send them back and I get more. So, but these two, when I get them up here, now the other thing I should tell you is that the transmitter is a momentary switch. So when you hit the button, whatever you activate, whatever this receiver activates, whatever it activates is going to stay on until you release the button. You see that red light there? Okay. If that red light is on, whatever you activate is going to keep working. When you let go of that button, that's when it's going to stop. So that's why they call it a momentary switch, remote control transmitter receiver, because whenever you want to buy something like this, you only want it on for a moment. For some reason, that's your application. Press once and it's on. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want the laziness of the latch version, which is on button and off button, because then you've got to hit one button, then you've got to hit another button. If you hit the one button to turn it on, it stays on until you hit the button that turns it off. So thus the momentary switch. Now there are things that you want that require that you have the switch on, you know, and switch off. There are items you would do. It's like if I was building a prop that was something that was going to be on for a while, you know, then I would, you know, like say a vibrating deck of cards, which actually outjocks and shoots a card out. I would want to hit that button and leave it for a good 10 seconds, and then hit the button off, you know, after the card shot out of the deck of cards, okay? It's a magic trick, it's a magic prop. I know some people are going to be watching this that are not magicians. I understand. So, but I'm saying there are reasons for buying a latched remote control. Latched meaning on and off. So this is, you know, and then they do make momentary and latch switches, combinations. But you know what? The more stuff that they put into a circuit board, the more stuff that can go wrong. So I always buy a momentary switch or a separate latched remote control transmitter and switch. Okay, I don't try to get them as a combo. All right, so that being said, what can you do with this? Well, I think I mentioned, if I didn't, I'm going to mention it again. Some magicians want to work with toe switches. I'm not a big fan of toe switches. And what's a toe switch? You got a remote control transmitter like this on a Velcro strap on your ankle. Coming out of that, there's 2 wires, okay? And those 2 wires go to Dr. Scholl's spongy foot insert, you know, for your left and your right shoe, in case the shoes are a little bit too big, and you got them big because your feet sweat and they swell, and you wanted to get so you get a Dr. Scholl's foot pads, whatever, and then you make a hole by almost where the toe is, and you run the wire through the hole, and this is on your ankle. This is on your ankle. This is my ankle right here. It's on my ankle, okay? And then it goes down your pants, okay, into your shoe, and into the Dr. Scholl's, okay? And the other end has a switch, a push-button switch, which is underneath the Dr. Scholl's. So you don't have the big switch sticking out on your toe, and all you're going to do is you're going to push down on your toe, and the Dr. Scholl's is going to press against the switch. And in this case, I have my remote control, just like I normally do, pushing the button, but now I have a switch that has a wire to it, and if I touch the two, you can see what happens. A second here while I align these two. There's no switch on this one right now. You can see that. See, that is on. That's because I'm touching the 2 wires together. Okay, so what did I do to make this? Okay, now when you do this, when you press down, it completes the circuit and sends the transmitted action from the remote control, just like if you push the button, okay, it sends it to the receiver. This is the receiver, and that receiver is connected to something, okay, that has batteries, okay, and that activates that thing. And now your hands are free. You don't need your hands at all to hide a remote control. I mean, sometimes I put a remote control, I Velcro it to the bottom of my table. And if I want to see something happen over here, I just keep my hands like this, okay, and I press the button, you know? Where are people looking? They're looking over here. I don't need to have no big thing in my toe. But there are magicians. I got one in France right now who ordered a prop for me. He wants a toe switch. Okay, so I'm going to send him a toe switch, but I'm going to send him a regular remote, and I'm going to send him a backup remote too. So he's got 3 remotes, and he can do whatever he wants with them. Anyway, to get back. The toe switch, okay, is connected to the inside of the transmitter. It does not affect the push button portion of this. So if you wanted to use this again, you can roll this up, you know, and wire tie it and just use this part. Or you could unsolder it from where it's soldered inside the board, inside on the board, and take it out and use it as a remote control. That's if you want to do that. Okay? Now, understand that the receiver and the transmitter that comes with it in this package here, are paired. So you can't unpair them. They are what they are. If this breaks, then throw this out, or if this breaks, save this for parts for another one you're going to accidentally break or do something to, so you've got extra parts. That's not the circuit board. I'm talking about the frame, the screws, the button, the rubber, whatever you want to call it. So that's what you would save the broken one, and then buy a new one and rewire the whole thing in. All right, so let's talk about the receiver. And, oh, by the way, I should show you, I'm almost forgetting the important part. We're going to open this up, and I'm going to show you where I soldered these 2 wires. Get this. Now unscrew this. There we go. Alright, we're just going to unscrew these 3 screws. It only takes 3 screws here. I'm getting this open. Okay. So here we are. We have this piece off. And here we are. We have the circuit board and the battery. This lifts out. The whole thing lifts out. Isn't that beautiful? You can take the whole thing out. Okay, and there's the little button. You see that little button there? That's the little button that's activated by the big button here when you press this in. Okay? So here we go. And you've got your 3-volt battery on the back. This battery, you know, shelf life is about, I guess, could be a year and a half, 2 years. And then the 3-volt battery you can buy. It's a common 2032 or 3022. I can't remember. It's a standard 3-volt battery. Okay? So now, where would I put these 2 wires? Well, they would have to be close to this switch. There are 2 contact points on each side of the switch. Okay? This switch was surface mounted. That's when you see something on the surface of a circuit board, it's surface mounted. Whether a computer does it or a person does it, probably this was a computer that did this one, a robotic system of some kind. Okay, you've got solder points on either side of the switch. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take and just make believe that this wire, this end of the wire is this end, okay? This end here. If there's nothing on the end of this, I'm preparing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some solder and prep the wire. And by the way, use the skinny solder. Don't use the fat, globby kind. You use that for different kinds of jobs. And I bought myself, and I have a couple of these things. These are a butane gas soldering irons, all right? So that you would turn this on and crank it up and light it with a lighter or with the accompanying spark thing that would make it light up, okay? And you want a fine tip one, so you look for a fine tip one. And what you're going to do is prep the wire for soldering onto the board. Okay, so you would take some solder, place it on the thing, and then put it on the edge, the tip of the wire here, okay, like so. And then you would do the same thing with the other side, and you want to make sure that these wires are not too fat, too long, the stripped wires. This is a stripping tool. You get a stripping tool like that. And you prep this one here with a little solder on it too. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to bring, and it doesn't matter which side you put this on. Either side can go on either side of the switch contacts. You're going to go over to the switch, and you're going to touch with the soldering iron, you're going to touch the, this wire that has the solder on it against the side of the switch where the contact meets, right there, okay? That's what you're going to do. You're going to touch the side, and you're going to solder this on. Give it a quick tap with the soldering iron, and hold it there for a second. Move the soldering iron out of the way, and it should be soldered together on the right one side. And then you're going to take the green wire. I'm going to get the green wire here. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side, okay? The same thing on the other side. All right? So you do that same thing on the other side. And then what I did was I Dremel tooled the cap here, the cap that goes on there. I Dremel tooled it. It's a sandpapering, a little machine with a drill on it. You can attach a sandpaper disc. If you don't know what a Dremel is, and I just Dremeled this edge like so down, just the edge. I didn't go anywhere near the screw hole. I didn't want to do that. Okay, and when I did that, I made space for the wire to come out. So if you look, you see the space for the wire to come out. Okay, and you can Dremel pretty much all the way down if you want. Just don't hit that screw hole, because then you don't have the screw and the inside to screw the screw on. All right, so there you go. So that's what that is. That's how that happened. So now you've got this strap to your leg. The wire is going down to your Dr. Scholl's, which got a hole in it near the toe, where the toe would be on the Dr. Scholl's. Okay, and then you're going to have a switch. Okay, that goes on this end. I don't have any. I ordered them from Amazon. If I had one here, I would show you. I'll probably do a part 2 just so you can see that. But I can put the link to those switches too. So that's how you would do the transmitter portion of the remote control. Now the receiver. Okay, let's put this back in here. Oh, one last thing. I would cut a piece of this rubber out. You know, you're going to cut a little piece of the rubber out here, so that the wire can come out a lot easier, okay? So you don't have to push hard to get this thing closed. Okay, it doesn't snap close, it just rests on there and it closes. So just cut off a little piece of the rubber with a scissor, because this is just rubber. And make sure you don't go anywhere near this. You know, leave about that much. You just leave a little, you know, like 1/4 of an inch for the button that you cut to. All right, and then of course this goes back in here. Okay, so now that's in here. I'm going to take my circuit board with the 2 wires that were soldered on here, okay, and put them back in, like so. And then take my cap with the Dremeled out plastic and place it back on. Okay. Let's get this lined up here. A second. Line that up. Screw the screws back on. And this is what I'm going to have. Just like so. Okay? Just like so. That's what I'm going to have. Now, one other thing. Without going back over and opening this up. You can buy a reed. R-E-E-D switch. Reed switch. It's a magnetic switch. and inside are two little metal pieces, like so. All right? And when a magnet gets near it, it turns around and makes a connection, which turns on something because it's a switch. It's called a reed, R-E-E-D switch. Okay? And when the magnet is taken away, it opens up. So you've got a momentary or a permanent thing going on with a reed switch. And you would do the same thing. You would take, instead of the two wires, you would take one end of the reed switch. They make little tiny ones. That's what you got to get, the little tiny ones. Okay, it'll rest along the circuit board after you've got it on there. And it's got two little metal contacts coming out of it, little like needle type things. And you would solder the wire onto one end and solder the wire onto another end. And then the other end, again, you would take and solder to the contacts on either side of the switch. And you would prep that wire too on the reed switch with a little bit of solder too first. Okay? And then when you touch the two with the soldering iron, they're going to stick. Okay? So now you've got your reed switch. Your reed switch goes over the wiring, the circuit board, and rests somewhere along the line here, or whatever. And it's only about that big, by the way. And it's plastic. It's got a little plastic black kind of thing. I'll give you the link to that too. Okay. And what does that do? Well, what that does is, if you've got a magnet underneath your table or underneath your close-up pad, and you run that remote control, which is wrapped around your wrist in a Velcro type holder of some kind, and you go like this, it'll activate something, and it'll turn on this like it turns on this. You'll get that same situation, and you'll activate whatever prop it might be. It could be a toy. It could be like a toy monkey, okay? And you just force the card, and you're asking the spectator take a card, and they take a card. You force the one you want to force, okay? And or you don't even have to force the card. You could you should force the card, okay, to do it the right way. Force the card, have them pick, say, the 7 of diamonds, okay, and then have them shuffle the deck, okay, and then spread the cards out, all right, and then show cards to the monkey, all right, it's sitting right over there. You say, is this the card? No. Is this the card? Is this the card? And when you get to the 7 of diamonds, you move your hand here. Is that the card? And of course, when you do this with your arm, the reed switch, which is on the remote control, okay, is activated. Sends a signal to the receiver, which is this. We'll get to this in a second. And that activates the monkey to go like this with the symbols. Or it could be any kind of toy. It could be a Playmobil toy that's got batteries in it. All right. So let's get to the receiver now, because this is the final part of the lecture, or the tutorial. And the receiver, okay, has 4 wires coming out of it. Now, what I like to do with the 4 wires is I like to take a piece of wire tie. I don't know what a wire tie is. Look it up on Amazon. And wire tie this. It's the same thing. They put the wire tie handcuffs on you when you go to jail, only a lot smaller. They're taking you in and they're arresting you. So you take the wire tie, the skinny, small, tiny one, it's only about that big, and you wrap it around here, and you wire tie it so it's nice and snug, and it keeps it from, spreading out like so, and like this, and like that, like this. So you want them all together, okay? But now, your receiver. Let's talk about the receiver. How does the receiver activate the item you want to activate? Well, first of all, these receivers, the operating current on these receivers is 6 volts low, 36 volts high. So from 6 to 36 volts of battery power, 12-volt battery, 6-volt battery, 9-volt battery. Nobody uses 36-volt battery. I don't know anything that's 36 volts. Maybe it's a winch, a car winch, because you really got to have enough oomph for the car to be brought up, whatever. But usually that's 24 volts anyway. So, but this is wire tied. And what I like to also do is put a piece of shrink wrap around the receiver, Okay, this is shrink wrap. They make it in all different sizes. And what happens is you get a fat piece of shrink wrap and you bring it down about this far, you know, because it comes along and you don't even have to cut it. Just bring it down. And then you take a lighter and very quickly go over it, and it shrinks around this. That protects the circuitry, okay, from shorts. Okay, and you can even pull out the antenna a little bit more, that kind of thing. All right. So what do you wanna activate? Okay. Well, let's talk about the 4 wires first. The black and the red wire, these 2 wires right here, okay, and then the blue and the yellow wire is what comes with the receiver. Now, some paired transmitters and receivers, okay, have different color blue, and instead of blue and yellow, there are other colors, okay? The black and red should always be the case because black is negative and red is positive, and that's for your power supply to activate the receiver, okay? So, whatever toy you have, if you've got a toy that's a 6-volt toy, a 9-volt toy, whatever, if you can get into the back where the battery compartment is, and you can see the 2 wires that the power supply is feeding. The power supply is the battery pack, okay, and that power supply also probably has a switch to turn it on and off. You don't touch the switch, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to cut the wire that feeds the motors or whatever it is in the toy or the magic prop and whatever, and you're going to connect, okay, the blue and the yellow wire to it by soldering them together, putting a little piece of shrink wrap to cover the solder, okay, and then doesn't matter if you use blue or red on either side, okay. If it's the power supply is going to have a red and a black wire, cut the red and the black and connect. It doesn't matter if you connect the blue or the yellow to the red and black, doesn't matter which one. Connect them both by soldering them, put a little shrink wrap on there first, solder it together, and then you've got that situation done. Now, where you had the battery, those 2 wires have a red and black. That's going to be connected to the black here and the red here. So now you're not feeding the toy anymore from the battery pack in the toy. You're feeding the toy current from the yellow and the blue. The yellow and the blue wire. By feeding the toy from the yellow and the blue wire, and the black and the red wire, I'm sorry, the black and the red wire going to the battery pack, and the blue and the yellow going to the wire, the red and black to the toy, by feeding them with this, when you hit the remote control, that is going to activate the receiver because the receiver is getting power from the toy. The receiver is getting power from the toy, and that's going to take the power from the toy, activating the receiver, okay? It's going to feed that power over to the toy's mechanism, whatever that toy's mechanism is, all right? All you did was add a switch, a remote control wireless switch between, okay, the transmitter and the receiver to activate the toy. Before these were present, you flipped the switch and the toy went on. Now, the switch should be on the toy, by the way. It should always be on. Keep it on now. You don't have to worry about draining power because the power is coming from here and when you press the button. So basically, to recap, the receiver has 4 wires. The red and the black go to the red and black battery pack wires, and the blue and the yellow could be different colors depending on what manufacturer you buy the receiver. Just make sure the transmitter and receiver are paired. It doesn't matter which wire you connect to the red and black wires going into the machine, into the mechanism of the prop that you want to activate. Okay? If this was a light bulb, let's say it was a 12-volt light bulb, okay? And you had it hooked up to a 12-volt power pack, you would run this over to the light bulb, and this would run from the power supply, okay, just to the power supply, and it would be 12 volts. And then this would go to the light bulb now and light the light bulb. All right, so, or LED, let's say LED, because that makes a little bit more sense if you see that. This would go to the battery, this would go to the LED. And that's basically it. So, and again, you can use these remote control transmitters and receivers for just about anything, as long as the range is between 6 volts and 36 volts. Okay, and that's basically all there is to it. An example of that, I'll show you this real quick, but I'm not going to go into detail. And I don't have one hooked up yet. I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't have it. I don't have a transmitter and receiver. Is the chirping bird that I have. When I wind this up, okay, and I hit the lever, I turn the lever on here. Okay, when I turn that lever on, the bird chirps. Now, the bird is a mechanical bird. It is a wind up, and you turn this on, and it comes with a cage and everything else when you buy this. This is a piece of automata. It's a very rare piece of singing chirping bird by Carl Grisbaum. I restore these things. Now, a lot of magicians, okay, who have heard about Del Rey, this is like the Holy Grail, because it was one of the things he did in his act where he interacted with the bird, and the bird would chirp and say, no, that's not the card. What was the card? Yeah, that was the card. Now, he needed a way to make this remote control. So what he did was he put an electromagnet inside this unit, okay? And he also had an electromagnet in the tail, in his table, in his table. And then when he hit his toe switch, that would activate an electromagnet in the table, which would activate the receiver inside of the bird. And that receiver would have a latch, okay, that would push the lever forward. And when he let go of that switch on his foot, it would stop because the electromagnetism would go away. So that's what I've done. I've kind of made a small version of this, but what I've done here is I've taken this receiver, you can see the little receiver here, and I've attached it to what I wanted to be activated, which is a solenoid. Okay, so when I hit that solenoid button, it pushes it forward and the lever forward. Well, it's got to be adjusted, and of course that would make the bird sing. Okay, and I'm using a standard transmitter like I just showed you. So that's how this works. Okay, so I took something mechanical, and I added the mechanical part of it. I added the automated part, the solenoid, to activate the lever. All right, and that's an electromagnet solenoid, which pushes it forward and activates the lever. I think the birds have. It's not wound up enough. There we go. So this goes forward. Okay. Okay. So that's basically it. So you've learned a lot tonight, and there's a lot of it that you'd have to do research on, because if you're not used to soldering things and you're not used to hacking into other toys and making something remote control, you'll need to work on those things. Take a quick YouTube look at how to solder things, what kind of solder to use, what kind of, like I said, for small jobs and skinny places that I have to get little tiny pieces of wire soldered, I use a very thin solder, okay? And I have a portable gas, a butane soldering iron, okay, which every once in a while I have to sand down the tip to make it pointy again. And you want a very fine-tuned tip for working this kind of thing when you're doing some soldering onto little switches with small soldering places that you've got to get in there without hitting the other surface mounts, the other electronics. You want to make sure you don't touch those with the hot heat, because then you destroyed the board or did something to the board. So you have to learn a little bit about that. And these remote controls are up there for sale. They are, like I said, they come in a packet like this with a transmitter and receiver, and they're like, um, you know, $12, $14, with the tax and everything else. And that's it, Frank Paris. This has been a 40-minute tutorial, and I know it's a long one, but if you're into hacking into toys and making them remote control, or if you're into whatever kind of magic that requires that you build something or have something remote control, then this will be very helpful. And like I said, I haven't seen anything up there that shows you how to do that. I mean, I've seen people wire things, and you see them all wired, but they haven't explained how they did that. I've never seen anybody show you how to go into a remote control and make a toe switch. Okay? Anyway, Frank Paris, hope this was helpful. It was a long one. It's now 41 minutes and 9 seconds. Frank Paris, over and out. Thank you.